Peter Gray, Nick Labaro, if there's something strange in your neighborhood, who do you think you would call?
Probably Ghostbusters.
I wouldn't. I would call the monthly movie marathon with Nick Labaro and Peter Gray. How you going?
Hey-o.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Monthly movie marathon where we marathon movies monthly. For those who are joining us for the first time, welcome to the freak house, the fun house.
Welcome to the house of fun.
Where you get lots of singing, lots of dancing, and lots of off-kilter humour.
So that never happens.
Never happens. No, actually, we rarely. Yeah. I don't think we do random impersonations
every now and then, but we don't sing, and
that's
it's
true.
For a good reason because I can't sing.
No, I'm sure you could after a couple of. I think you'd be fun at karaoke. We've never done karaoke together.
Ooh.
We've sung when we go out and like drink and dance, we sing to the songs.
You know
karaoke could be fun.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the Ghostbusters, but I'm glad you've watched us plan our personal lives.
And
for the last minute and a half.
I mean, I feel like maybe karaoke is going to be a bit more exciting.
It might be a bit more exciting than what we're talking about today. Spoiler alert. But for those who are joining us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, please like.
And also,
thank you.
I was like, if they were listening, I'm like,
Hello. It's almost like
we
want you to lean in closer and closer. Like you might have heard a spectre somewhere. Ooh. A little anomaly. And then the anomaly goes, "Wah!" Rest in peace, headphone users. But what we do on the monthly movie marathon is we look at the month ahead, which is March. Where are we in 2024? And we pick a movie that's coming out. Sometimes it's a big release, which arguably, like, this is probably the biggest release of the month.
Because, yes, well, in America, people would probably be, it was June. But in Australia, we got it at the very end of February.
So technically, we got it in February well before everyone else. A whole day before.
But because of time difference, it's like 2 days before.
It's 2 days before. So we were very lucky in that case. And then the other big movies, Godzilla, Kong, The New Empire. And it was like a coin flip, basically. And we landed on Ghostbusters. So I was like, it'd be nice to revisit these classic films.
Yes.
Whether they hold up.
Yes.
Whether they don't hold up. But also new iterations.
Curious.
Who would have thought? No one knows what we're thinking right now. We do not wear our hearts on our sleeves when it comes to reliving classics.
My childhood is ruined. And not by the reasons people...
Fuck you, George Lucas, for some reason.
The people would think.
No, and I'm intrigued to break it down, but not to give anything away about how we feel about this series of films. But we chose Ghostbusters because on March 21 in Australia, March 22 worldwide, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, the fifth film in the franchise as a whole, but the sequel to Afterlife, which was like the second revitalization of this franchise.
So it's kind of like the fourth film in the original timeline, second film in its own timeline, and then the fifth film overall.
Confused? I am.
Yeah.
But before we break it down, I was going to have a sip of my drink and then I put it down. That's
weird.
We're not sponsored, but
hey.
And reach out,
the thing is, it's hard to drink it with.
It's a weirdly long can, is it? Yeah. Yeah. And if for all those listeners out there who are just hearing,
gonk.
We're just gonking Pepsi Max cans down.
Length, not girth.
We need the caffeine. We've had a very busy couple of weeks, and by we, I mean myself, Nick Labaro, critic for NovaStream, and nicksflicksfix, and Peter Gray, rotten certified tomato meter movie man. We're gonna try and add a word every month.
Yeah, that's fair.
Every episode from now on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well-established critic for the AU Review.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, I am. I'm gonna be like, there's humble, but I'm also like, I'm doing all right.
We're doing all right.
My name's out there and it's good.
Busy. All right and busy. What have we been dealing? Like June 2, dealing with that was huge. Fantastic film. Loved it.
Yes, we've
South by Southwest you've been covering.
South by Southwest.
Back from South by a little bit. There's heaps of shit happening outside of that.
We've just had interviews on interviews on interviews.
I know. I feel like
by the week, I can't say anything.
You can't say anything. The most recent one we can say something about was Kung Fu Panda 4.
Kung Fu Panda
big
4.
release Kung Fu Panda 4.
So we spoke to the directors Mike Mitchell and
Stephanie Marstein.
Yes. Incredible. So much fun.
They were a lot of fun.
They were a lot of fun.
But I, similar to you, I'm guessing I keep a list of who I've interviewed throughout the year. Last year I famously said, I said to myself, 62 interviews last year.
Yeah.
I'm already at 26 for the year. So we're kind of like, I'm going to try and go for 100.
Yeah.
I think that'll be fun.
I don't know where I'm at.
Peter Gray can't keep track of his interviews. There is just far too many.
I mean,
it's true.
It's true.
It's
and like
true.
the one that I can't talk about came through this morning, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
By the time this comes out, we'll be able.
No, we won't.
No, we
The
can't.
embargo breaks later.
So
in April,
keep on the watch out.
Keep on the watch out. In April, I will say what happened in case you're not following me. If you're not following me, why the hell not? Rated PDG on Twitter and Instagram, or on Rotten Tomatoes
as Peter Gray.
As Peter Gray, GRAY, or on the AU review.
Also as Peter Gray.
Yes. But
yeah, I was like, there's two actually now we can't talk about, but would be very.
Oh, right. Yes. If that one comes through.
That'll be
fantastic.
That'll be very fucking cool.
Yeah.
So we're busy as fuck.
We're busy boys.
This has been.
Then on top of that is also we've got the other podcast.
Oh shit! Yeah,
where we watch
0 to
movies,
100,
which comes out weekly. So that means there's a lot of there's a lot going on.
Cat in the Hat just dropped this week. That's
fun.
a great discussion.
That was a great discussion. It's like funny that was the movie that
finally split.
Really divided us.
Really, we were kind of like absolute opposite ends of the spectrum.
But
for
hey,
that one there.
And we're here again together.
I mean, it took a while to read that. could you imagine? It's like everyone's like, "Wow, there's no monthly movie marathon this month." Did Cat in the Hat finally?
And they'd be
break
like,
Nick and
I
Peter?
thought they were dropping episodes weekly for 0 to 100. We haven't dropped anything in a while.
Unfortunately, the show is looking for new hosts. No, I love the Cat in the Hat. But yeah, that's so 0 to 100's out there as well, which there'll be a new episode dropping next week.
Yep.
11% if you're playing along at home.
I was like 11% if you're nasty.
And for the movie that we're watching, maybe not.
Oh yeah, I'm interested in
nastiness.
This one.
Might be on the top of the order there, and then just loads of reviews. Like it's just starting to like steamroll now with movies that are coming out.
We both said we feel like I think at the end of 2023
during our recap,
we were like, we feel like 2024 is going to be busy because 2023 was busy,
and it has been,
and 2024 has already been
super busy.
Monstrously busy. So we're kind of like
films aren't even really like aside from June Part 2 aren't really out yet.
And the big films that are coming out, we feel like we have a good chance of being involved with.
Part of.
Yes. So just follow us as you do.
Yeah.
And look out for all the things. We really do.
Appreciate all the support. But as always, we would never, ever let anything take our little baby away from us. I need caffeine.
Right. This being the baby?
This is the baby. Right. Monthly movie marathon is the baby. I wanted to say it in a way that was actually quite sweet and charming, but it came out creepy.
It came out as,
I'm worried
about my baby.
I'm worried about my children. They're stealing my babies. And my baby is, our baby is, we're dads, co-dads of the monthly movie marathon.
And today we're... And
where are we?
We're, I was like,
maybe we've been possessed by Zool.
I was like, we're lactating?
Maybe. I mean, if one of us is lactating, it's me.
Oh, right.
It's me. Anyway.
We're talking about Ghostbusters.
Who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
So, before we get into Ghostbusters, the first film, what was your Ghostbusters introduction? Do you remember the first time you watched it?
So, Ghostbusters was released in the year that I was born.
84. Sorry, not to age, Pete. Not to out you, but 1984.
That's fine, 1984. I look incredible for my age. It's fine.
I would agree. Sorry, I would say, for those listening and be like, wow, there was a gap for a compliment.
That wasn't even an intentional like. I'll wait to be like, oh my god, yes you are. It's fine. I know that I am. It's fine. But thank you, Nick.
That's okay.
Yes, he came out the year that I was born. So I probably saw this in the early 90s when I would have been old enough to sort of, because it would be a scary film for a little kid.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Like,
So I remember seeing
for a comedy horror, there is definitely quite effective horror
I think
elements.
I feel like I would have seen this when I was about 7 or 8.
Right, a home video situation, right? Yeah.
Me and my brother, like, I remember watching this a lot as a kid.
Okay.
And we had the Ghostbusters car.
I mean, it's iconic.
We had the action figures of all four of them. We had the green gooey Slimer. We had him. We had the big Marshmallow Man.
Oh yeah, Mr. Puff. Mr. Puff, is it?
We had all the toys, and
yes.
This was a film that I grew up watching.
Yes,
but
it was iconic, right?
Right, but I hadn't seen it in a very long time.
Sure.
So I was excited to rewatch it.
Yeah, because and I think that's a universal feeling, right? That it's like anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s knows Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
There seems to be a general consensus of
love
love
for it.
for the franchise, for the series, for the first film especially.
Yeah.
It made $296 million on a $30 million budget.
That is successful.
That's for a comedy.
And
huge.
In the 80s.
In the 80s.
Can you imagine what would that be if that was adjusted for inflation? That'd be huge.
A lot. That'd probably be like a $800 million movie, maybe. Yeah. I mean, that's real quick, uneducated maths. But that's what you can take that as
I'd say
vital.
minimum $500 million.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Minimum. Yeah.
Absolute minimum. Yeah. So, but it's obviously the brainchild of Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis. Rick Moranis is an uncredited writer on it too. But I feel like you let Rick Moranis do his thing, right? A comedic legend.
I love Rick Moranis.
I know. And obviously he is not in the spotlight for very good reasons.
Yes,
when his wife sadly passed away, he decided to look after his children.
He stepped back.
But he is probably one of the best parts of this film too.
And also, I'm just going to do a quick shout out. So obviously Rick Moranis, Ghostbusters, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I love Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Spaceballs.
Merchandising.
Spaceballs is one of my favorite films of all time.
It's funny. Spaceballs.
It's so funny.
Spaceballs might be one of the best parody films ever made. The genius of Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks. Yes.
But also directed by the late great Ivan Reitman. Who was, comedic legend of a comedic director.
Yeah.
Probably made some of the funniest films of the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
I had worked on Ghostbusters Afterlife too. His son, Jason Reitman, another established director, directed that film.
Yeah.
And sadly passed away a few months after the release of that. But I think one of the things that's quite nice about it is that for the most part, this has definitely been kept in the family. Like everyone's sort of, even with the the 2016 Ghostbusters, the all-female Ghostbusters, Reitman's still a producer. We had Harold Ramis pop up. We had Ernie Hudson pop up.
Bill Murray popped up.
Dan
Aykroyd popped up. Sigourney Weaver popped up.
Sorry, Harold Ramis didn't pop up. Sorry, I was thinking Dan Aykroyd. Harold Ramis as well.
Harold Ramis is referenced in the film.
Yes.
So it's clear that we will get to the 2016 one, but
of course,
as much as the internet would like you to believe that movie was sort of made was kind of shitting on the original Ghostbusters. It wasn't, because the original Ghostbusters were involved with that film.
They're in the movie.
They didn't need to be.
No, God, no, absolutely
not. That's a conversation.
We'll dive into that.
But we are talking about Ghostbusters.
The general feeling around all of the entire franchise is that it is a beloved series of films.
Yes. And for a long time, I had good memories of this film.
Not just you, Pete, because critics, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That is so high.
Audience score, 88%. I mean, this is an iconic film. Everyone loves Ghostbusters.
95 is so high.
Now, I would be in the positive skewing reviews, but breaking news, I hate to break people's hearts. This movie does not hold up.
Yeah.
In a very bad way.
Yeah.
I feel better for getting that off my chest. I feel like no one's going to listen to the show anymore, but that's fine.
But I also felt like I felt good about not feeling great about this film either, because I was like, shit, this might be one of those movies that Nick just holds in such high regard.
I was never a Ghostbusters kid growing up.
Right. Yeah. It was like a whole decade before.
I would have been mid-teens by when the first time I saw it. Probably,
so that's like
when I first started working at Blockbuster. To be honest,
like 2000, like that's like
2010s maybe.
Yeah, okay,
around then. So like I was very late to it. So I don't have a nostalgic feeling to it, but but it's not one like even after watching that I don't feel like I remember thinking it was like an amazing film, but I never really hated it, and I don't hate it now.
Yeah,
it's not a bad movie, but it's just not as good as people remember it.
I was quite shocked like when I rewatched it initially I was like it's all just coming back to me like I was like the music at the beginning I was like that just
probably one of the highlights of the film, right?
That feeling,
the score, the scene it is iconic. It's really cool.
And then like the opening sequence in like the library, I was like, I remember this. I was like the ghost and like the way that the old woman gets freaked out. It's like quite a scary scene.
It is a very scary scene, and
like
the way practical effects,
practical effects are great. Like the books, the
documents and stuff are flying
back.
Everywhere.
I was like, this is great. And I was watching it going, oh man, like
it's good to
like
be back.
I feel comfortable watching this, and then it kind of just I was like.
And then you introduce the Ghostbusters.
Bill Murray is so predatory in this film.
It's so creepy.
And
it's so creepy.
And it really is like...
It's a product of the 80s.
It's a product of the 80s, but then also everything... I mean, there are certain things that have obviously come out about him in...
Of course. Yeah.
That doesn't help.
No, but
watching him in this, I was like, he thinks he's getting away with being like kind of like cheeky and charming, and it's not.
No,
he's really, really predatory
to every woman. Meets. Like it's
even when they're with their partners
right in front of them. So and it's all played for laughs.
Yeah,
and that's
and as you said, we know
issue.
it's a product of its time. I get that, but it's very hard to watch it now and go, regardless, like. You can think it's funny. It still doesn't take away the fact that I was like, no, he is using his position of power to place himself onto these women.
And it's not that it's a small part of the film.
No.
That's another issue, is that it's quite, pretty much most scenes he's with women, which is a big majority of the film, especially when it's Sigourney Weaver.
Yes, like he does it to the student at the like, and it's like...
And that's probably the most innocent out of all of them.
And it's still kind of like,
creepy.
All right, maybe you'd be like, all right, I'll let him get away with it because
he's trying to make the guy look dumb.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is that like, okay, cool. He's just being a little...
He's being like a typical
flirty, whatever.
like that alpha energy.
Yeah, sort of real outgoing sort of like I'm top shit. But
when he's then with Sigourney Weaver,
that's when it gets
really problematic.
Very problematic.
And it's like...
Again, played for laughs.
Yeah.
And that's not entertaining. Like it's not nice to watch.
No. Especially
biggest issue I think.
Especially when she's like, I've had a paranormal situation in my apartment.
Literally, like she's scared.
Please help me. Like like the eggs break. I know watching that, I was like, I remember the scene. The eggs breaking
to break up the more mundane aspects of why we don't like this film.
Yeah.
The practical effects
are great.
Are great for the 80s and good for now. You know what I mean? Like, I love, the eggs breaking, the books flying around. When she opens the fridge and like, even those special effects, while they're a little bit corny, they still look cool. They're ambitious. Zool as a practical effect is quite creepy. Like, there are some really cool aspects to the horror elements of this film. But for a horror comedy, and might I add, a PG rated comedy.
Yeah.
It falls a lot flatter than I think a lot of people remember.
I'm kind of surprised this is one of those movies that hasn't been re-rated as the years have gone on.
Yeah, because it's pretty mature.
You could imagine this getting an M rating here.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the new Ghostbusters is M.
Frozen
I know, Afterlife was M and then re-rated down to...
Yeah. And the 2016 one is M.
Is M as well. Yeah. So, it's interesting. Like, those effects are cool. Bill Murray is definitely problematic, but to me, it's just like the comedy doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's like Dan Aykroyd's playing too serious.
Yeah.
And so I don't get any enjoyment out of his character. I just actually feel like I'm watching, as it's described here, a parapsychologist. I just feel like I'm watching a parapsychologist do his work. Yeah. And he's just put in an uncanny situation of there's no real comedy here.
And I think because
Same with Harold Ramis.
yeah,
to be fair.
and I think it's because Dan Aykroyd's playing it serious. Harold
it's like
Ramis is playing it serious.
it's like a goofy serious with Dan
but then
Aykroyd.
Bill Murray is like
It's goofball.
so far over the top that it's like, well, where's this common?
And then Ernie Hudson comes in serious as well. Which, by the way, we'll just shout out. We both interviewed Ernie Hudson in 2023. Last year, I believe, we interviewed Ernie Hudson.
He's the loveliest man.
So fucking lovely.
Oh my God.
Also, 70 years old now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have known that from that interview with him last year. I was like, you look better than I do.
He is hot. He's a sweet
He's lovely.
man. And he's like, I feel like he brings, and this isn't just me saying it because we've spoken to him, but he does bring a lot of like heart to this movie. Like he's the one character that you're like, oh, like I like you.
I would say that about Harold Ramis's character too, because at least like Dan Aykroyd's character is serious, but also kind of a dick. Bill Murray's a dick who's being a dick.
Yeah.
Harold Ramis, which is Egon, I believe.
Egon Spengler.
Spengler, that's right. It's like there's like a charm to him. Like it's like when you root for the introvert, and you're when he meets a girl, and you're like, I want him. He's so nice, and he just loves his work. Like so, there's definitely an attraction to that character, to his charm.
Absolutely.
So you got 50% of the Ghostbusters who you like, and 50% who you kind of like. What the fuck's going on? In a movie that's like, I'm going to admit, far too long. Even at only 140 minutes, they struggle to fill that runtime.
Yeah.
So many montages.
Yeah.
That I'm just like,
and which is
move the movie along.
Which I feel like is a big thing for the 80s.
It is.
Do like
that's
they love a montage.
I wouldn't criticize a Rocky montage, so I'm being hypocritical. But in this film, it slows the pace.
But you can you also know that when you're watching a Rocky movie, you're like, this montage is clearly just padding things out. Like we don't need every single montage.
The only montage in Ghostbusters that I like is the initial one when they start getting it's the iconic is like, we've got one. And that like the actual Ghostbusters theme song montage.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's just there's too many of them throughout the film. Then we get to like, because then we don't need to explain the plot. Everyone's seen Ghostbusters.
Everyone's seen Ghostbusters.
When Sigourney Weaver gets possessed,
and some of you might not be listening now because we don't like this movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like our least listened to episode. When Sigourney Weaver gets possessed, when Zool comes out of the chair, great effects and stuff. And when she's possessed, it's nice and it's nice. It's creepy. But that last act is so long.
Yeah.
Going into the building, going up to the top of the building, dealing with the fucking Zool, dealing with the demons. And then we got all the Mr. Puff and then
it's like and then you like Rick Moranis is possessed. So then he comes into it and he leaves and it's like
hilarious.
Yeah.
It's tough because
I was like on the other thing when Sigourney Weaver is possessed and Bill Murray comes to help her again, he makes a lot of like suggestive,
creepy innuendo,
and it's like you know that her life is literally in danger, and just because she's acting ultra sexual, it doesn't give you the right to go. Oh, now I like no
again. The issue is it's played for laughs.
Yeah.
Like, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. Product of the 80s, sure, but there's a point where you kind of go, yeah, this is a bit much.
That's still a case of like, well, how come there's no like that? I'm surprised there isn't conversation around about consent regarding her situation in that.
I'm trying to block.
Oh, I'm fine.
You're all right.
Yeah,
it's like on your head.
That's all right.
As long as you're okay with it,
it's all right.
We got these nice streaks, these spectral streaks on us now.
Yeah.
So we both. Would you rate this positively though? I gave it 3 stars, right? On Letterboxd.
On rewatch, I was kind of like, I don't know if it would get a 3 from me now.
Interesting, because then I'm more intrigued to see what your other ratings are for other Ghostbusters films. Because I don't think it's inherently a bad movie. I just don't think it's holds up as the classic people.
Yeah, like I think a part of me would be like, or maybe it's 3 stars because maybe like
Sigourney's good in the film.
She's really good.
Really, and like her physical performance when she's possessed by Zool is good. The actress who plays Zool, creepy, this real like androgynous looking character, like very David Bowie.
Yeah,
very Bowie, but creepy as hell as well. I thought the practical effects were good. I liked the idea, like the final showdown is cool, and the effects, all the Ghostbusters fans are going to hate me. The spectrometer. I can't remember what it's called.
Where you can't cross.
You can't cross
streams. Hey.
And that's funny. And again, that pops up in all the films. So that's great. But there's enough elements of it for me to be like, okay, it's good, but it's just not great.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine.
It's not 95%.
It's, yeah. And that would be a high 95 too. That'd be
That's shocking to me.
That would be a lot of retrospective reviews too, I reckon.
So.
Hey, like if we're looking at people were reviewing it, someone reviewed it in 2023. You know what I mean? Like 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, like heaps of some there. But hey, Justin Brown from Medium Popcorn, shout out. 2 out of 5.
A part of me was for this film because I enjoyed the cartoon series so much. This movie on its own is just okay. That's pretty much it.
Thanks for.
I would say
you're trying to steal my job from the podcast.
I would say
it's my job.
It's more to me. I'm like it's just okay, and that's coming from a rewatch as an adult.
Yes,
watching a film that should always be intended for adults.
And you know what? I would argue that every film that's come since has skewed more towards adults, maybe with the exception of Afterlife.
Afterlife does have, until like towards the end of Afterlife.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I feel like Afterlife is probably the most family-friendly one.
Totally, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I'll start introducing my kid to, older sort of movies. Oh, I'll show them Ghostbusters. But you rewatch it and be like, I don't think I'd let a little kid watch this.
No,
like looking back at it, I was like, I probably shouldn't have been able to see this at 7.
I'm like, me and you though have a long history of watching.
I mean, we watch things.
Shit we should not have watched at like 10 years old, and look at us now, completely okay. Movie critics. So yeah,
it can happen to you too.
Wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Ghostbusters, yeah. I'm gonna struggle to find a reason to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Ever again,
Pretty
to be
much,
honest.
yeah,
like
I'm the same.
I'm okay with not seeing it.
Yeah.
I've watched it maybe 2 or 3 times properly now. I'm good.
Yeah.
I remember because I rewatched them leading up to Afterlife and I was in a similar boat and I just thought maybe I was in a bad mood, but nah, I mean, 3 times and I haven't had like a great reaction to it. Probably. And as Egon would say, conclusive evidence. That was mean. I shouldn't have picked on him.
That's all right.
He's not a nerd.
You know what else I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy?
What?
Ghostbusters 2.
Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. Ghostbusters 2, 1989.
5 years.
Yeah.
That's a big break.
That's a big old
big
break.
gap.
But everyone back. The boys are back. Bill Murray,
back.
Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis.
Rick Moranis
back.
Sigourney
Ernie
Weaver.
Hudson. Sigourney back. Written again by Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis. Directed again by Ivan Reitman. And do you know what? They got everyone back. Did everyone want to be back? Didn't seem like it.
No. I'd love to know if there's any like.
I'm sure they got paid
behind the
shitloads for it. Let's have a look at how much it made before we get into the scores because, so
this one, like, it was a lesser successful film than the first.
Sure.
Like, it made
But it was
$70
still a
million
success.
less, but it still made a giant amount of money on
$215 million.
lesser budget.
Yeah, the lesser budget kind of throws me. Maybe that was the thing. They were kind of like...
Maybe there was some pay that didn't get what they wanted.
Maybe. So,
but yeah, $25 million sequel, which is shocking that the sequel is less expensive.
Yeah.
And makes $215 million worldwide. And that's enough for them to go, second one wasn't successful, we won't make a third.
We won't do it, yeah.
It's weird because you go $215 million off a $25 million budget. That's huge. Maybe because they saw the $70 million drop and the fact that the critic score for this dropped immensely.
55%. And 61 for audiences. So this has not resonated with critics or audiences alike.
And it's kind of funny because, like, again, something that we'll more talk about with the 2016 one.
Yes.
Everyone was so like Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
Amazing movies from the 80s. Like, you've ruined my childhood by making this an all-female movie. And then you just go, no one likes the second one.
Yeah, like
going off of
Ghostbusters
that.
2 ruined
Ghostbusters
itself.
2, yeah, like you can't blame whatever like we all know the reason why a lot of people did not like the 2016 one. It has to do with the fact that it's a cast of females.
Yeah, there's this
Just
thing rhymes
Don't
with gizmogyny.
Yeah, don't bother saying it's because the first 2 films are so beloved. The first one is beloved. We'll give it that.
The second one is not.
The second one is not.
Absolutely not. And deservedly so.
And because 55% proves that, 61% proves that, $70 million drop proves that.
Yep.
And for what it's worth, we watched it and we're like, yeah, this is a bad movie.
It's way more boring than the first one.
Yeah.
And it has less going on. Far less going on.
And then it throws in let's put a baby in danger because that's what makes people like want to go to the movies.
The height of tension, kidnapped children. Just reading the trivia here, several factors contributed to the 5-year gap between the original and the sequel. Bill Murray was on an extended sabbatical from acting, if you want to call it that.
Fair enough.
But he was angered by the new Columbia head, David Putnam, calling him an actor who makes millions of movies but gives nothing back to his art. Interesting.
I mean...
Could say the same for Bill's performance in Ghostbusters.
I'm not exactly going to say he's wrong.
No, I don't think he's wrong at all. Putnam was fired in 87. His replacement made the sequel a priority, and they pretty much smoothed the tensions and reservations that the four men had in the ensuing years. So obviously, whether it was tension between the actors or also the studio heads or not. So, I mean, I don't think it's not common knowledge that especially Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd are very sort of hot-headed characters, do not mind speaking their mind, even if what they're speaking is dribble. Dan Aykroyd more recently has just said some dumb shit. He said,
really?
Well, he came out and said shit about the 2016 Ghostbusters.
Oh.
There was like so many reasons. A lot of the reasons it didn't work is because they didn't consult him for creative control and shit. You also created Ghostbusters 2, so you don't have at least a full leg to stand on. Now, it sounds like I'm like shitting down people's throats who do like these movies, right?
Right.
And that's your prerogative. I'm going to try and protect you there. That's your prerogative. Like, sure. And that's the beauty of cinema. That's the beauty of art. It's subjective.
Us not liking it doesn't take away the fact that you can like it either. But that's not what this is. But
I think where we have a little bit of clout, so to say, is that we watch so many movies and we review so many movies and we analyze so many movies that when I was watching Ghostbusters 2 and I was seeing the half-assed performances, the half-assed effects, the bare bones of whatever this script and story was, I was like, did anyone but Columbia Pictures want to make this film? That's kind of how I felt.
This is a movie that goes, all right, the Slimer.
I think it's Slimer.
But it's
Slimer.
That's the
the goo.
The goo.
Right, because I'll give you this real quick.
It's connected to angry energy.
So discovery of a massive river of ectoplasm.
Right. So it's just it's brought on by people's emotions. And I was like, that's kind of like it could be a cool thing. And then
is it just an excuse so they could all just be grumpy bums?
Right. But also
potentially.
How do we fix this? Let's do a fucking musical number.
Oh. Yeah. I forgot about that until you said it.
We'll do a musical number because it makes everybody happy, which makes the goo subside. And then
it made I'll tell you what, Pete, it made my goo subside. I'll tell you that much for free.
You know what? Because we don't have enough stupid shit in this movie already, let's make the Statue of Liberty just walk.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Come the fuck on.
It's because it was the whole how do we go bigger and better than the Stay Puft Man.
They decided to basically just go, we have to one up everything we did. And in that case, it made it just go, you've just gone from one big stupid thing to another. Like the river of ectoplasm underneath the city. I'm like, that's a good enough reason to bring everybody back because you're like, the city is under attack.
Yep.
And making the goo attached to emotions. I'm like, that could be
there's a
narrative there that you could use.
Totally.
But they basically just use it to, as you said, they're just angry at each other all the time.
Yeah.
And then their solution is like, we'll sing Old Lang Syne and it'll make everything better.
And because the characters are also angry because the Ghostbusters have disbanded. Like, this movie takes place 5 years later. And Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson are singing the Ghostbusters theme song at kids' birthday parties.
Bill Murray,
where the kids are like, "Stop it!
Yeah, like we don't like this. We don't like this." And
Mum, why did you pay for this?
Fair.
My birthday's ruined.
Bill Murray has become
a father
with
Sigourney Weaver.
I thought she had it with her ex-husband.
Maybe. Who's he?
I feel like Bill Murray.
Aren't they together?
Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver, they broke up
together. That's
she
right.
got with someone
else,
had
had
a
the
baby.
kid.
They've now divorced, and he's come back, and he's trying to
picture.
rekindle it because, of course, Bill Murray's trying to rekindle it because he's
A pervert.
Yeah.
The nicest way of putting it.
But then, aside from all of that, we obviously need a villain
yes, Peter McNichol as Dr. Janis Opoa.
who he chooses the scenery.
It's a and in some ways good.
Like he's
It's entertaining.
He's
I'll
the
say that.
he's the most entertaining thing of the film. But
And
whether or
kinda
not that's
gets the tone right,
kind of.
yeah, it's true, isn't it? I'm
But it's
conflicted.
because the film
having
then
fun.
takes him so far.
so far, yeah.
Because we've got what's the big
Zool?
Is Zool like is that the paint
Oh,
the big
the,
painting?
The what do they call it? Fuck.
What's
Vigo.
his- Vigo. So
So too many demon names to remember.
so Vigo comes alive, and then he
Yeah.
basically is like, I want to possess someone
I
and
want
re-
to
and,
possess
and be
you.
like reborn, so I can rule. And naturally, it's
Is
like,
that
hey,
so hard?
and naturally, it's like, oh, well, we've got this baby, so let's just possess the baby,
yeah, true.
which is like quite,
Which is kind of
quite
fucked up, 'cause
horrific
Then you kind of like, now I've got to wait until I'm like an 18-year-old so I can do anything.
to do anything.
Just
I mean,
possess
in
a.
America, 21.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, just possess a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Probably got some good years left in them if
Yeah.
they're healthy. Like,
Yeah.
just find an able-bodied.
Yeah, but
Do
no,
what Zool did and just find an able-bodied, lovely woman,
yeah.
possess her, somehow less creepy than what Bill Murray did that whole film. So,
But that's not what
it's-
happens.
It's just bigger and it's just trying to be bigger and better, but it's just bigger.
yeah.
And it doesn't really. Like,
Doesn't
I just don't, I can't comprehend how this movie is more boring than the first one. I just. It's not a. It's just not a good movie.
It's not a good movie.
It's not a good movie.
It's not a good movie.
Again, sorry if you're a fan of it, but that was interesting for me because I'm like there's another franchise that has this almost similar sort of track record that I was thinking about, and that's Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah.
Arguably, one fantastic film,
Yeah.
two good films, three
Yeah.
shit films. So you
Yeah.
got Jurassic Park as the great one.
Yeah.
Then you got Jurassic Park 2 and Jurassic World, which are good films.
Yeah.
And then you got Jurassic Park 3, Fallen Kingdom, and the last
Dominion.
one, Dominion,
I mean,
a shithouse.
I like Jurassic Park 3.
I enjoy Jurassic Park 3, but like comparatively it's not good.
I get it. Yeah.
So there was a part of me that was like, oh, is that the Ghostbusters effect? Is Ghostbusters 1 the good one and then the rest of the franchise is shit? Yet there's this like undying loyalty to it. And I'll admit it, and this is coming from a fan, Star Wars is somewhat similar.
Yeah.
There's actually more average Star Wars movies than great Star Wars movies. So I understand why people love this franchise, but I think understanding the fact that like Ghostbusters doesn't hold up. Ghostbusters 2 is a bad movie. And then the jury's out for the next two as well because the opinions are split down the middle for both of them.
Yeah.
I've seen full spectrum of opinions on both films. It's interesting to be like that. There is a lot of love behind this franchise. I think a lot of it does come from the animated series. Apparently that was quite popular. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't want it just to seem like we're shitting on Ghostbusters for
No.
the sake of it. But having watched them now a couple of times, and I think this was only the second time I've seen Ghostbusters 2 and similar vibe. The first time I was like, nah, this is
I mean,
not great.
I remember watching Ghostbusters 2 a lot as a kid.
Sure.
And I hadn't seen it in a very long time. And then rewatching it, I was like, yeah, okay.
Tough.
This did not hold up at all.
So
and
we're
I,
off to a
and, I,
great start.
and I knew that its reputation was bad,
Yes,
even
totally,
though
yeah, yeah.
everyone likes to pretend that it's not.
Yes.
Like fans are like, no, the first two films are beloved. I'm like, successful doesn't necessarily mean that they're beloved.
Yes. I think that's very good.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it,
Yeah.
actually. But then Ghostbusters kind of died. We got the couple of TV shows, like
Couple of
animated
TV
TV
series.
shows.
Yeah, I think there was-
I remember the animated series when I was
Yeah.
a kid.
I remember
would
there,
watch
and I
that.
remember there being a lot of talk throughout the years of like,
Well, there was supposed to be a
gonna happen.
Ghostbusters 3,
Yeah.
just kind of never happened. And then we go 1989. So 27 years later.
27, yes.
Whew, quick maths. 27 years later, probably in the interest of keeping the IP alive as well, because that's something else that Sony had to think about.
Yeah.
We got Ghostbusters, which is sometimes called Ghostbusters Answer the Call. I guess it is the title card at the end of the film.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
me,
like, it opens as Ghostbusters. It's Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's Ghostbusters.
The 2016 Ghostbusters, directed by Paul Feig.
Love Paul Feig.
Paul Feig, sorry. I'm thinking Kevin Feige. Paul Feig.
Who has made some of the best comedies ever, in my opinion. Bridesmaids, Spy, A Simple Favor.
I lie, yeah.
I
I'm not as big. I know you have a Simple Favor. I'm not as big on it. Was instrumental in Undeclared, the follow-up to Freaks and Geeks.
He played Mr. Poole on Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh my God, I didn't know that actually.
But he's so good. But I interviewed him for last Christmas, and he is the loveliest man.
He seems great. He does seem quite nice.
He is just like he's. Yeah.
Oh, he produced Freaks and Geeks as well, so I'm happy about that.
He executive producer of Minx.
Yeah, and fuck, everyone loves that show. What else has he got? A couple of episodes. The Heat. A couple episodes of The Office in there. A couple episodes of Parks and Rec.
Weeds, Arrested Development. This man knows comedy.
But obviously, this film did not release without its
controversy.
Controversies and reactions.
It was like the first. I think it was the first trailer on YouTube that got like
it's one of the most
unanimously.
It's one of the most disliked.
And even then it was like one of those ones that got like review bombed before it even opened.
Yes,
because people were like, you're ruining whatever.
So yeah, okay. So let's discuss that because this is how all great sentences starts. I'm not sexist. No, but I do remember. So this is quite a vivid memory. I remember being in a sold out cinema. And this trailer played.
What were you seeing?
I can't remember, but it was an opening weekend or something because it was at where I used to work at South Bank Cinema in that 500-seat cinema. Right. So it's packed. It's like proper packed. Yeah. And we're sitting there and this Ghostbusters trailer plays and it ends and there was not a single laugh.
Silence.
It was genuine silence. And normally if you're in a control group that big, not everyone's going to be firstly aware of the controversy. They're not going to be oh, it's that fucking female Ghostbusters. Like you can't guarantee that 500 people are going to be like that. But the fact that no one laughed, I was like, oof. Oh, maybe this is actually not going to be a good film outside of all the controversies.
And I'll admit, the trailers didn't do anything for me. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm all for this film. Because I was like, Paul Feig, Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones, Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
I was all for this movie.
Huge cast.
And I saw
all funny in their own right.
Yeah, and I saw the trailer and was like, shit.
Yeah.
Maybe this is actually
maybe it's fucked up. Maybe
this is going to justify.
And then you've also got Paul Feig, who wrote the script. With Kate Dippold. Who did The Heat. Who did Spy. Who did... she did something else recently.
Spy Who Dumped Me.
Spy Who Dumped Me, that's right.
She wrote that.
And she's made a directorial debut,
and she directed... I feel like she directed...
There's something recent.
Snatched. Did she write Snatched? She wrote Snatched. And Haunted Mansion.
We can't...
Whoopsies.
Maybe not. Oh, she hasn't directed anything yet. But I feel like, so she's...
Oh, she didn't write Spy Who Dumped Me.
Oh, no, she didn't. Just The Heat. Like she didn't even write Spy. We're just making shit up now.
I feel like
she wrote The Heat. She wrote Snatch. She wrote Ghostbusters.
Right.
Oh, she was a executive story editor on Parks and Rec.
Right.
So, even still, the talent and the quality behind this film should, you would think, it would,
especially because
the parts would equal the whole,
because Melissa
right?
McCarthy and Kristen Wiig were coming off of Bridesmaids.
Yep.
Huge film. Oscar nominated. Kate McKinnon.
Fuck, we're in sync today.
Right. Yeah. Kate McKinnon was arguably she was becoming
huge on SNL.
The star of SNL. Everyone was like, it doesn't matter how shit a sketch is going to be. Kate McKinnon's in it. It'll be funny. Yeah. And Leslie Jones was a very polarizing personality.
She's good. She's a big personality.
She's a big personality.
Totally. There's even times where I'm like, even in this film, I'm like, fuck, Leslie, that's too much. But it's an acquired taste of comedy.
But she did not deserve the hate that came to it. Nobody did.
Fuck no.
But
no way.
The hate that she got is that's straight up racism.
Oh shit, yeah.
And you don't hide behind the fact that it's because it's Ghostbusters.
Yeah, no.
It's because I'm like, why don't you have anything against Ernie Hudson?
Yeah, it's like you can't gatekeep that shit.
No.
It's not yours to gatekeep.
I was worried for this film because the trailer did not land for me. But I was invited to the preview screening of this.
Yep.
I went.
Yep.
And I had a fucking great time.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so much funnier than the trailer's leading out to be.
Yep.
What didn't land in the trailer worked better in the final.
It's funny because it's almost like the jokes need set up, context and punchline, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how that sort of works. Is this your favorite Ghostbusters film?
It is.
Yeah.
It holds up on rewatch.
Yep.
I feel like it's really fun. There's all it's typical kind of Kristen Wiig and Kate McKinnon humor where they just do these little things that are like, that's funny.
Awkward, quirky. Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth is fucking hilarious in this movie. He is so. I mean, they really overplay the dumb thing where he's like, close your ears, and he puts his hands in his and his glasses have no.
That was funny where they're like
he's like, can I bring my cat to work? And they're like, we can't allow your cat here. And he's like, why? I'm bringing my dog. And they're like, but you said you're my cat. And he's like, yes, my dog, Mike Hat. It's funny. I think this movie is really, really funny. And if people just let all of their shit go from what they think what a Ghostbusters movie should be, if this was the four men and it was written the same way, obviously you'd change a few jokes. It would be very well received.
I like this movie.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Yeah.
I think it's like the first two too long. Like
it is
far too long.
It is very long.
I think the only issue with its length is that it does, especially the bits, like the humor does feel like repetitive.
Yeah.
And that's not shitting on anyone who's in the film because like it is comedy powerhouse.
I mean, I feel like it's almost
the joke runs dry.
Yeah,
you kind of go, okay.
And I feel like it's one of those things where Paul Feig's just like, I have these talented women. I want to just get as much as I can.
Notoriously famous as a director for loving improv scenes and getting people to work stuff together.
And you can tell there are scenes where you're like, oh, they've just let Kate McKinnon fucking run wild.
Who for me, like I think Chris Hemsworth I laughed the most at, but again, it's that dumb humor. But I think Kate McKinnon is like the funniest out of the four. Like what she does with that character, like the Egon equivalent is quite funny.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you. I think this is probably potentially skewing more in the corny way, the most fun.
Yes.
Out of the four.
Like to me, it's a 3.5 star movie for me.
It's a 3 for me, right? Yeah.
Like I'm not saying it's like the best thing ever.
But my 3 would skew higher than the original Ghostbusters.
Right, yeah.
Totally.
Like I think this has the most rewatch value of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. Yeah. I would disagree. We'll get to the next one.
Right.
But in the sense of like, this movie is completely fun. Like, it's fun. It's good.
Like,
it's fun.
I feel like people are not watching it because they've just heard so much shit.
Sure.
And you just go watch it and you realize it's really funny.
It is very funny. And a lot of that is just the ability to just run with the fun tone of the film. Like, that's why I don't feel like I was bogged down in boring shit. I just think it was long.
And it's not pushing feminist agenda. It's literally just 4 women working together.
Who would have thought?
Like, why is that? If this was not a Ghostbusters movie and it was some other profession, but it was the same script, guaranteed this would be like more well received. But we talk about being well received.
Well,
critically, it's
74%.
Like 20
critics liked it.
20% higher than. 49% for audience. So,
49% audience score. But again, we spoke about.
But we knew that was review bombed to death.
But also reasonably successful.
I mean,
kind of not really. Actually, $229 million on a $144 million budget. So
like I remember when it opened, everyone was like, "Oh, okay, maybe this will have." Good legs because it opened to like $46 million.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a good opening weekend for a movie that people had written off completely before opening weekend.
Okay.
Like for that to open to $46 million, you're like, that's big.
Pretty big.
For a movie that everyone was like,
for a comedy as well. Yeah. Like that's another thing.
But yeah, it obviously one of those ones that kind of teetered off after.
True.
But there was clearly the intention was for this to be the start of
A new franchise.
because
Totally.
we get at the very end,
The
we get
post-credit scene,
the Where's Zool.
Yeah,
You know.
and we get the original Ghostbusters, apart from Harold Ramis, who had passed away at this point.
So Harold
back in
Ramis,
different
Harold
parts.
Ramis's face is seen as a bust at
yeah.
the university. I was like, that's a nice little touch. Dan Aykroyd has a cameo as a
Taxi driver.
I hated his line because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does, but yeah. Bill Murray plays a completely different character. And Sigourney Weaver has a little cameo as Kate McKinnon's sort of like lab partner.
And Ernie Hudson.
Plays Leslie Jones's
father at the end. Yeah. So, yeah, there's connections, but it does stand on its own.
Like you don't need to see the other one to see this because this is very much playing by its own rules.
I do want to touch on an aspect of the film that there's a thing that I liked about this and a thing I didn't like. It's very oversaturated, very colorful, very like strongly lit, sometimes neon lit film. It's popping.
It is. How did you watch this?
Streaming.
Blu-ray
Looks great.
This movie is beautiful to look at.
Because that's what I was gonna ask. Because I do think the streaming quality. I was like, oh shit.
No,
but I struggled with the massive overuse of CGI.
Yeah,
it's tough
fair.
It's tough for a film like this, but especially the end battle.
Yeah.
That's in a completely fake city that is then covered with lots of smoke and shit. I was I don't feel like any of this. It sounds so dumb to say. I don't feel like any of this feels real.
Yeah, no.
But like even within the movie, like the universe, I was watching it like
they do go like, especially because most of the movie, I feel like the CGI when the creature's on Leslie Jones's shoulders. Yes. I think that looks really cool. I actually love how she's just like, nope, I'm gonna go. Like, nope, don't say anything.
Don't tell me there's something on me.
But yeah, I agree. The end does get like it's like kitchen sink.
It's a big action scene too. So it's like, and you know what, some of it does work.
This film also was released in 3D.
That is great point.
So,
did you see it in 3D?
I saw it in 3D.
Okay,
so
I
in
don't
3D,
think I did. I don't think I did.
I was like, everything coming at you, it looks better in 3D.
Right.
And then when I bought this on Blu-ray, it came with like the 3D copy. And I originally had a 3D television. Oh. So I watched it in 3D at home and was like, fuck, this looks really cool in 3D at home. Now it's just a movie that you can watch it normally.
Yes.
And what it does is for certain scenes when like the ectoplasm,
I remember this from the cinema.
It comes out of the black bars.
So, okay. Yeah. Again, cinema story with context. I was a projectionist at the cinema and I do remember that. So in like layman's terms, movies would come in either a flat or a widescreen or scope aspect ratio.
Yeah.
And this one came in as flat, but it had the black bars. And I was like, oh shit, that's interesting. And then after testing the film and I saw the stream, I was like, oh, okay, that's for the 3D. And
that's cool. It's a cool effect because you're like, it's coming out of coming out of the screen. Like
I also saw this in the cinema. Yeah. I took my mum and my sister to see it.
Yeah.
And I do remember the same reaction as this time. I was like, I enjoyed it. It was like fun. Even I remember walking out being like, oh, that's way better than I thought it was going to be.
That was it. I was like, oh, this is so much better than the trailers.
Sure.
On Blu-ray, I've only watched it once, but I watched the extended cut.
Yeah, I just read that. So the version, for context, that I watched was an hour and 57 minutes.
Which is the
theatrical cut. You watched 2 hours and 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow. Where does that 16 minutes come from?
They bring in, there's a lot of stuff to do with Kristen Wiig's ex-boyfriend.
Okay.
Who is played by... Oh, it's played by somebody kind of familiar, and I'm just trying to think who it is. Can we just go to the cast list?
Sure can. Oh, no.
Because I feel like... Anyway.
Zach Woods. Do you remember Zach Woods at the beginning of this film?
Great. Who does... I'm just trying to think. Have they actually got it in here?
Michael Kenneth Williams and Matt Walsh. Andy Garcia.
Yeah. He gets
Cecily Strong's in this film.
He gets a little bit more in the extended cut. Do they have it? Maybe they don't.
Maybe no. It doesn't look like it. No.
I feel like there's someone plays the boyfriend. Either way, there's extra stuff with him. And then there's just a few like extended bits of the girls like talking and that sort of stuff.
Justin Kirk is Phil Hudson?
No, that doesn't seem right.
Him?
Maybe it is him. Maybe.
Anyway.
Maybe. Either way, he gets a lot of extra stuff.
Okay.
And I remember watching it going, I can see why this was all cut out.
Okay.
But I was curious just to be like, I'm going to watch the extended cut.
Paul Feig loves an extended cut.
He does love
Spy's got an extended cut.
Spy's extended cut is
funny
hectic.
as fuck. It's very fucking
Yeah.
funny. So yeah, I mean, overall, there is one more thing I do want to say about this, and it's a positive thing. The orchestral version of the theme song fucking slaps.
Oh yeah.
And it's used so well.
Yeah.
When I remember it was playing, I was like, fuck, I was like, I might add this to like the gym playlist. Fucking like it's the way he uses the music in this film, like the original Ray Parker Jr. theme song is great. So
I will say, as we talked about Zach Woods at the beginning of the film, it's a great little opening. Some of the facts that he talks about are hilarious.
It's pretty funny.
But there's one really funny bit where he's like, he calls them to investigate. He calls the girls to investigate the house.
Yes.
And he talks about they talk about the man who lives there, and he's like, well, he's been dead for however many years. And
that's right.
And she's like taken aback by it. And then Ed Begley Jr. is there, and then she's like, no, him. And then he's like, oh yeah, that's my dad. And she's like, well, that's who we meet. Like it's just like a really small little interaction where, I don't know, it's that sort of stuff that's very Paul Feig.
It's very Paul Feig.
And he's obviously
this is Paul Feig's Ghostbusters,
and he's just
right?
he's let his actresses have a lot of fun because the chemistry between them is undeniable.
Oh god,
you can tell. I was like, okay, these girls are friends.
They know each other,
and that
well,
helps.
Yeah.
Like you kind of got
their chemistry is really great.
You've kind of got the Ghostbusters where you're like, did you guys actually like each other?
Yeah,
I can't tell.
Good point, yeah.
Here, you're like, you girls all really like each other, and that's what keeps the film going.
Yeah, for sure.
Even when you're like, okay, this joke's gone on too long, but you're like, yeah, but they're all likable.
They're all having fun at least.
The extended version has the big dance number with Chris Hemsworth.
Right, the one that we see in the credits.
That is kind of a bit weird in the final cut because you're like, why are they all in disco poses?
Yeah,
but he does. That's in the extended cut, and I'm
interesting
like,
that wasn't left in, right?
But I'm like, I kind of get it.
Okay,
like
it is a weird part of the credits too. Because I remember watching it, I was like, oh, okay. But again, Chris Hemsworth just having fun.
He's having a
being
great,
hot and dumb,
and he's having a great time.
So this movie's good.
Yeah,
like for me, it's good.
It's good.
It's probably to me like on comparing like tomatoes and oranges. It's on par with the first original one for me, and just like level of like, I probably won't watch it again, but I probably had more fun with it. It's like in a weird sort of spectrum of 3-star for me.
I get it.
But obviously, then with its unfortunate lack of success, there was there were sequels talked about with the female cast
it very
returning.
much seemed like this was a sequel was planned because of the way that this movie ends. And I'm bummed that we didn't get a second one.
No,
because it would have been cool to see what they would have done.
What they could have done again. So, there was another attempt. There was another attempt to bring the Ghostbusters back to life. In 2021 with Ghostbusters Afterlife, which
2021 was like when everything seemed so uncertain still.
Well, I think this was initially supposed to come out a lot earlier.
I feel like this was a delayed one, yeah.
This was one of those weird release date movies for sure, obviously due to the COVID pandemic.
The pandemic.
But
pandemic.
Ivan Reitman back doing a screenplay role. That Jason Reitman, as we said earlier, the son of Ivan Reitman, coming to direct the film. This is probably also his biggest budget film because Jason Reitman's normally been sort of an indie darling with films like Young Adult and what's that one Tully he did?
Tully.
Did he direct Juno as well? I feel like he directed Juno.
And Thank You for Smoking?
Thank You for Smoking is fucking
It's
brilliant.
so good, right?
That movie is fucking
No one saw that movie.
Brilliant. No one saw that movie.
Good.
And also a screenplay credit for Gil Keenan, who is the writer and director of Frozen Empire.
Right.
He has taken on the full.
Okay.
But the reason Monster House. He also directed Monster House, which I love. He also directed
Poltergeist.
The Poltergeist remake, which had moments of like, sure.
So surprised Sam Rockwell's in that movie.
Yeah, everyone's got a house to pay for.
Yeah, that's true.
So
what else did Jason? Yeah. Up in the Air.
Up in the Air. So Oscar winner for Up in the Air
Front
too.
runner,
So
that's right. Tully
produced Whiplash.
Labor Day. I remember Labor Day. Oh, Jennifer's Body. Cool.
Yeah, because he would produce Diablo Cody.
Yeah.
Who also wrote Juno. So a quality lineup of films in his filmography. And obviously great to see Ivan Reitman coming back for it as well as a producer as well.
That gives you some hope that he's like, all right, I'm stepping back in after so many years.
More hope was brought on when Paul Rudd, Paul Rudd entered the picture because I just love everything he's in. And I think he just brings
my buddy Paul Rudd.
Your buddy friend Paul Rudd.
I was remembering that. I was like, fuck yeah.
That was like a year ago, right?
I spoke to Paul Rudd. So
Carrie Coon, who is a fantastic actress.
So I rewatched Gone Girl and was like,
she's so fucking good.
That was her first movie.
That's crazy. That is crazy to think that was her first movie.
Carrie Coon, incredible actress. Then we got Finn Wolfhard, who's just riding that Stranger Things wave.
Sure.
McKenna Grace, who is like
brilliant actress.
Who is in everything. Like you want to be the young version of Brie Larson, McKenna Grace.
Sure.
Young version of Margot Robbie, McKenna Grace.
Gifted is the movie. I was like,
Handmaid's
that was like her.
Tale.
Yeah, she's incredible. Like incredible actress, and she's great in this too.
Yes.
And
Logan Kim,
Logan Kim, Celeste Connor as the friends as well.
Celeste Connor, star of Madam Web.
So, true. That's right. Oh, that's where she's from. Yeah, okay.
She'll survive Madam Web. She'll be fine.
Yeah, she'll be okay. Everyone in that film will be
survive
okay.
Madam
They'll be
Web.
okay. Everyone's forgotten about
Dakota Johnson might not get hired by Sony again, but
hey.
She's like, I don't need to. It's fine.
But yeah, after a couple of delays, this movie came out, and I remember really enjoying the trailer for this.
Yeah.
For one main reason. I was excited the fact that it was going to be like a 1980s family adventure film with Ghostbusters, which is kind of where my heart lies, where I want this story to go.
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect setting for like a Ghostbusters movie.
Yep.
Is to have kids explore, and then it's a small town, and of course there's a mine shaft.
Goonies.
And everyone knows how much I love the Goonies.
Yeah.
So go and listen to our Lost City episode where I literally just jerk off about the Goonies for about an hour. So I was excited going into it. We got it quite late in Australia.
Yeah.
So we knew the reception going into it was reasonably positive. There was a few things here and there. The critics score is 64%. Which is
that's actually lower than I thought.
94 for audiences.
There we go.
This is an audience movie.
This is an audience movie.
This is it's got everything. It's got the comedy. It's got the scares. It's got the heart. It's the emotionally manipulative film.
They were like, we'll bring a ghost of Harold Ramis back in and get you going.
Let's rip that Band-Aid then. So obviously at the end, all the original Ghostbusters come back. They've got it's the strongest, most evil entity they've had to deal with, one that Egon was trying to capture for his whole life, literally up until the end of his life, which is the opening scene of the film.
Yeah.
And then they use a digitally altered CGI Harold Ramis ghost.
A really good CGI recreation.
Good,
You're like, they've got to have used footage because he looks like that's Harold Ramis.
But there's two arguments here. It's like whether they should and whether it works in the film. Whether they should, obviously they would have had to get permission from the Ramis estate, and they've gone, sure.
Yeah, I feel
you don't just do these. If you think they're out there, it's like they're disrespecting him.
No, they've gotten permission.
They've gotten permission, and in a movie called Ghostbusters, it seems like it's kind of fits.
And you imagine that they probably were like, all right, I don't know because Harold Ramis died before Ghostbusters
2014,
the 2016
away,
one. So I don't know how the Harold Ramis estate felt about that one.
Yes,
but you almost feel like if they were like, well, if his character and his likeness is going to be involved in this, you imagine that they would be like, we want to see what you're doing.
Sure.
So I feel like the fact that they were able to get whatever footage they needed to recreate him, and the fact that it's not even like a little speck
cameo.
I was like, it's like
he is in the final act of this film
performance.
Yeah. Whether it works in the film is another thing. Now, I think it does. I know there's a lot of controversy about it's you know, they're emotionally manipulative, like, why would they bring him back, blah, 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 disrespectful. I disagree. I think for what this story is and the breadcrumbs that are left throughout the film, I actually don't mind it. I wasn't moved to tears by the end of it, being like, oh my God, this is that. But I was like, yeah, that works for me. Like, I kind of like it. And it's actually, for me, it's less about him reuniting with the Ghostbusters, but more so McKenna Grace's character getting that closure.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, it's her getting the closure. It's him having his moment with Finn Wolfhard. And it's him having his moment with Carrie Coon, who she's like, I thought, like, I've hated you my whole life.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I've actually been trying to...
Common theme for Sony films, Madam Web.
He's like...
But that plot point came out of nowhere in Madam Web.
Yeah,
so.
But he's like, I've actually been trying to protect you this whole time. That's why you never saw me.
Yes.
So it's kind of like... And they do... It is a beautiful moment. And I feel like those people that are super, super connected to Ghostbusters, the original, will have a more emotional reaction to Afterlife.
But I don't think there's... should be too much controversy around it. I just think it works.
This isn't like a Carrie Fisher Star Wars situation.
No.
That was not done well.
That was not done too well, no. I like the idea of it. I just don't think it was done well.
It wasn't done well.
But then you got to think as well, like Harold Ramis was essential in creating the film Ghostbusters. And then to have Ivan Reitman back, to have it felt like a very in-family sort of thing where it was actually treated with a lot of care
and you can't have
a lot of respect.
And you can't have the other three and not have Harold Ramis.
No, it feels like an ode to an old friend.
Like they can't just say,
nice.
he died. Like you can't just like one of those things where he died off screen.
This
like
exposition line of that. Like, I like that, and I think that works.
Yeah.
All the events leading up to it, I think, are a really fun mix of comedy, a fun mix of adventure, slight mix of horror. This is probably like the least like terrifying.
Yeah.
Until like the end is a little, or the opening is pretty intense.
Yeah, the opening is
pretty intense.
The ending is my biggest issue with this film.
Sure. Okay.
So like I gave this 3 stars.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I gave it 3.5. This is my favorite.
Like I liked this movie. Yeah. I was like, McKenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard, Logan Kim, Celeste Connor. I like their dynamic as the four. Paul Rudd, you throw him in there and he's always going to be good. The romance with him and Carrie Coon is a really nice thing.
As a goofy science teacher as well.
Perfect.
The first time we see him when he's in like the cargo shorts, the New Balance, like he's in like boots and socks. I'm like, you're a dork and you play it well, but you're a sexy dork.
Yeah.
That's tough to pull off.
Yeah, but
well
you
done,
do it.
Mr. Rude.
So I liked that it was bringing in that sort of like 80s feeling. It very much leans on nostalgia.
Absolutely,
but without
but what
complete
doesn't? If you are the 5th film in a over 40-year-old franchise, you're gonna have a bit of nostalgia.
But I was enjoying it, and then the ending to me. And I feel like it's a common thread with all of these Ghostbusters films. And it seems to be a thread with like a lot of films in general when it gets to the ending and you know there's going to be
a big climactic battle
moment. And I felt like this one just kind of, the tone shifted too much for me.
It's dark.
Like it got dark. Like you got Olivia Wilde coming out as essentially not Zool.
It's not Zool. It's the other, the character we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
But she comes out. I mean, she looks incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just felt like her coming out and then she changes Carrie Coon and Paul Rudd into the beasts. Yeah. And then it just became like...
It's a bit too much.
It became too much.
It's a bit too much.
And I was like, this doesn't fit with...
Everything that's
come before.
A lot of the good stuff that's come before as well.
There's so much good stuff in this. Like there's like a lot, like when they first find the ecto, like the
trap thing, right?
And they trap their first ghost, and they're in the car.
When they accidentally let the ghost out initially, is a fantastic scene.
They drive in the car and they activate the seat, and she comes out. Like it's a fucking great
that scene with the Slimer is so fucking cool.
It's such a good scene, and I was like,
I just got chills.
And then I was watching that, going, yes, this is what I want.
Going down into the mine, I was like, it's that adventurous, you know what I mean? Like it's that adventure feeling that like you are going on this journey with it, as opposed to just like I'm watching 4 men shoot ghosts. Sure, funny if you think it's funny, but like this to me had so much more stake wise and enjoyment wise and engagement wise. And I agree. I think the ending definitely overshoots.
The ending just definitely overshoots, and that's when I was like.
It takes you out a little bit. Yeah. I'll admit, until the emotional stuff happened, I was like, the
emotional stuff happens and you're like, God damn it. Yeah, but I think that's where I kind of lost a bit of it because I was like, now it just feels like a big convoluted CGI mess.
Yep.
But it's kind of the same thing that happens with all the Ghostbusters movies. The endings always go big, and a lot of the time you don't need to go as big.
No, I absolutely agree. But I think...
But this is my second favorite Ghostbusters.
And it's my favorite out of all of them. But even still, like, I know there's flaws with the film. It's not a perfect film.
Absolutely.
As much as I've complained about everything feeling long, this is the longest one at 2 hours and 4 minutes. Yeah. And it definitely feels like that at times. Like, I think there's some scenes that are a bit extended. Let's talk about what is arguably was the most shocking scene when we watched it for the first time. And upon reflection, kind of like, that's way more violent than it needs to be. When it's all the mini Stay Puft Marshmallow Men murdering each other in the shopping mall.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's funny, but you're like, this is dark.
Like, I wouldn't show it to a child.
No, it's a great sequence. But yeah, I remember us
very inventive ways to kill.
I do remember us sitting in the screening. We were just like, is this
allowed? Is this allowed?
Yeah.
Fun, really fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Do you want to know something though? And normally I get fucking pissed when I see any form of light that is not coming from the cinema screen in a film.
Yeah.
But we were obviously at the previous hearing. It was a packed house, and they had like I don't know what they're called, the ghost call. They had the people there.
That's right. And that kid,
there was a little kid in the front who had the spectrometer or whatever the fuck it's called. I think I just made that up. But in fairness, it was kind of cute in retrospect, and she was pointing it at the screen every time McKenna Grace's character was using it. And I'm like, that's get your fucking phone away, but
it just reminded me, I was
in
like,
retrospect,
but I'm also like, I hope they don't do it this time.
Don't bring kids to, do you know?
Or don't just bring, randomly. Don't give them.
Someone brought a baby to June Part 2.
No.
Did it cry? Literally, there was one.
No.
And then that was it for the movie. But I'm like, why are you bringing your newborn child to
That's what babes and arm screenings are for. So that all of you can deal with screaming babies together. Don't bring a baby to June. No.
3 hours long.
No.
Anyway.
That a movie you need to really pay attention to.
Oh, fucking oath you do. Yeah.
No.
But
anyway,
I'll admit, in retrospect, it was a little bit cute. I was like,
well, I guess because I was also like, a little girl sees.
That's kind of how I justified
it. But at the same time, I'm like, don't hand out things that can be distracting in a movie.
Yeah.
Because we already deal with enough.
Unfortunately, these sorts of screenings are not really made with the reviewer experience in mind.
No.
But that's neither here nor there. That's another conversation. TikTok questions. But overall, I really enjoyed this film.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun with it. This was my first rewatch since the cinemas, and I'm glad I did rewatch it. It's kind of made me excited potentially of what the feeling of Frozen Empire could be.
Do you have any excitement for Frozen Empire?
I'll say this. From what I've seen, I actually haven't seen a full trailer.
Right.
But from what I've seen in little clips and posters, I have a bad feeling it's the Ghostbusters 2 effect. It's just trying to go bigger.
Yeah.
Because this is now a New York scale.
Yeah. I feel like movies are like...
cataclysmic event.
But I feel like movies are just like, go to New York. That always makes it bigger.
Yeah, so...
Although it worked for Scream 6.
Kamal Nanjiani's in it. I love Kamal Nanjiani.
Yeah.
Who we interviewed last year.
He's, again, I was like, I'm just going to say lovely man. But he really is.
Lovely man. He really is a really nice guy. But, yeah, I can't say I am overly excited for this.
Yeah.
But if it's going to be anything like Afterlife, I'm excited. I'm hopeful.
If it's like, to me... If it's Afterlife mixed with 2016,
yep, you're okay.
I'm all good.
Yeah.
I'm all good. And I mean, I didn't realize. They're all back.
Yep,
Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray.
Yeah, okay. They're in the poster.
Annie Potts.
They're in a poster of it. I'm pretty sure. So, we didn't even mention Annie Potts, who was the receptionist from the first film. We got one. She's in every film. She pops up in every single film. Back.
Can I just say, that IMDb photo of McKenna Grace, I'm like, she's getting older, and it's kind of. It's weird to see her like looking.
It's that Millie Bobby Brown thing, right? Yeah,
it's weird to see her.
I was like, she's she's great in Afterlife too. She is absolutely part of the heart of the film.
She's the heart of the film. Yeah.
But I guess in wrapping up about Ghostbusters, an interesting franchise.
Yeah.
classic's not as classic as
kind of funny
we thought.
That the later ones are the ones that we
enjoyed the most.
Also, and that's got nothing to do with the fact that they're just more recent films.
No, God, no. I just think there's more entertaining. They do. I think they do better things with the premise of Ghostbusters than the original Ghostbusters did. The idea of it, as the movies went along. But if you really feel like letting us know why we're wrong, don't.
Do.
Oh, okay, or do, I guess.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, we can just disable comments. It's fine.
But that's the thing. Like, if you love Ghostbusters, I'm not going to ick your yum. Like, yuck your yum. I'm not going to yuck your yum.
Don't ick my yum.
I'm going to say yuck. I'm not going to yuck your yum.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. Yeah, right. Don't fuck with my yum either, which is a yuck.
Right. Sure.
Put that on a fucking
t-shirt and wear it. Put that on a t-shirt and wear it.
Ghostbusters. It's Frozen Empire, right. March 21. Courtesy of Sony Pictures, who is best friends with Dakota Johnson. So that's another month done for the monthly movie marathon, which means...
I was like, where we marathon movies monthly?
Where we do marathons movies monthly. Zool's in my brain. Which just means we need to look ahead and see what April looks like.
April!
And on the day of recording, we have received word, not we, but the world exclusively has received word that apparently our next month pick is fucking great.
Is good.
The Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy.
Is what we were looking
coming out of South by Southwest. Banging responses.
I have not seen one negative review yet, and I have seen a lot of reactions for this film.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Winston Duke, directed by David Leitch, filmed in Australia. Huge. I'm excited for it.
You're going to be huge, kid. You're going to be huge.
You're going to be a star, kid. The trailer I thought was fine. I was like, okay, this looks like fun. This reaction's got me fucking pumped.
Yeah.
And we picked this film before it even premiered.
We were just like,
this looks like fun.
Fall Guy. Yeah, it'll give us a chance to watch, some good movies.
So it's coming out at the end of April.
So now it's kind of like, all right,
there's a bit of excitement going into it. So the movies we're going to cover leading up to Fall Guy is not in a genre.
No.
Specifically.
Although a lot of them are.
A lot of them do really fall into that genre. Yeah. But it's nothing specific leading to Fall Guy. We've done a first for the show.
Yeah.
Where we're going to be watching 3 films.
Yes.
We're going to be watching one film that was directed by David Leitch.
But you, the people, get
to pick. One film starring Emily Blunt and one film starring Ryan Gosling. Now, the way you get to pick is that Pete has chosen a film of each. I have chosen a film of each. And we're going to get you to vote on what you want us to watch and talk about on the next episode. So let's start with David Leitch. David Leitch, I picked Bullet Train.
Bullet Train.
I really like that movie.
I really liked Bullet Train.
I'm excited to potentially revisit it.
And I spoke to David Leitch about Bullet Train. And again,
cool guy.
Lovely guy. Man. And his wife, Kelly McCormick, who produces...
They're all part of the 87 North crew.
Nobody... Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
She is by far, she is one of the, I was like, I still think about my interview with her.
Yeah.
She is she is like sunshine personified. She is the most joyous person.
I love that.
So yes, you have chosen Bullet Train.
Yes.
I was like, you know what? And I looked at it, I was like, could have gone like Atomic Blonde.
Yep.
Could have gone Deadpool
2.
But I thought, Deadpool 2
may come up later in the year.
May come up, but also I'll rewatch that before Deadpool.
Of course, yeah.
Atomic Blonde, I like Atomic Blonde. But another movie he did that arguably stars...
The love of your life?
That does star arguably one of the people that I am in love with. Hobbs and Shaw. Because I love the Fast and Furious franchise and any excuse to rewatch Hobbs and Shaw because it's Dwayne fucking Johnson.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
And Roman Reigns is in there too, so let's go.
That's true. So you'll be picking between Bullet Train or Hobbs and Shaw. Now, for Emily Blunt, what have you picked?
I have chosen... I was debating back and forth, but we're going to go with what I think should have been an Oscar-nominated role. Sicario.
Fucking banger.
Banger of a movie.
Banger role.
Yeah.
Another banger film.
Oh.
Where she plays a banger role.
Oh, my God.
And I have to sadly admit, haven't seen it since the cinemas.
You're gonna have fun rewatching it.
If we rewatch it, that's the thing.
True. That's true.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow, also known as Live Die Repeat, or all there is kill. All you do is kill.
Something like that. It's based on a.
But Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. It's called. So Emily Blunt, Sicario, or Edge of Tomorrow,
Yeah.
and Ken himself.
He's just. Can we just quickly talk
yeah.
about that performance at the Oscars?
Fantastic.
My God, I had so much joy watching Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie just lose their shit at him. Billie Eilish pissing herself laughing. Emma Stone singing along. I was like, oh.
That was
the highlight. That's where you just go, you are just
Goss. He's the Goss.
You're a star.
He's a
mate.
fucking stud
He's
too.
He's
a stud.
He's a stud and a half.
But there's one film, Peter Gray,
Yes, Nick LeBarrow.
where Ryan Gosling was just literally me, and that was Drive, and that was my pick.
I was going to be like Lars and the Real Girl.
What's the one where he plays the fat serial killer? Anyway,
He got kicked out of it because he put on too much weight.
That's me. I am the Lovely Bones. No, Drive is my goss pick. What's your goss pick?
Well, I mean, speaking of being like talking about him being just like absolute sex. Crazy Stupid Love.
And you know what? Okay. Do you know what sucks about this is that we've both picked bangers.
I know. Like a part of me is like, a part of me is just like, am I just going to be watching like
all of these films,
6 movies?
But for 3 movies for us to talk about, you are in control. So look out both of our Instagrams. Probably this is coming out Friday. Probably next week sometime we will put up so we can fit in the time to watch these 3 movies.
Yeah.
But David Leitch, Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling.
So Bullet Train v. Hobbs and Shaw, Drive v. Crazy Stupid Love, Sicario versus Edge of Tomorrow.
Fuck.
So you can choose.
So I
was like, you can choose all of Nick's picks. You can choose all of my picks. You can choose
pick whatever. You can do it next year. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All leading up to The Fall Guy, which by all means is probably going to now be one of the best films of the year.
I'm getting big like Lost City, like that kind of those kind of numbers where it'll be like it's going to do big business. I think.
I can't wait.
I can't wait. Yeah.
But until April, nicksflicksfix on X and Instagram and Letterboxd, and I look like a bird trying to fucking cough up my. That's why you should watch the YouTube. You get all the real good visual gags. And if you are watching on YouTube, sorry for that. But like and subscribe. Follow us on the socials, Pete. Oh, and NovaStreamNetwork.com. You can find shitloads of interviews, lots of reviews going up. Big head movements. I
was like, a lemonade? No Chick-fil-A sauce?
I actually just saw that video today randomly. So, but that's where you can find me, Peter Gray.
Yes.
Do you like Chick-fil-A sauce? And where can they find you?
I don't think I've had Chick-fil-A sauce.
I haven't. No.
Actually.
Oh my God, you have?
I feel like I had Chick-fil-A in Toronto. I feel like I did. But I don't know if I got the Chick-fil-A sauce. No Chick-fil-A sauce and a lemonade. Okay. But you can find me on Instagram at ratedpdg, at Twitter or X at ratedpdg, and the aureview.com, where my interviews and reviews go up. And thank you to everybody who read Imaginary, because you've kept it at number 1 for like...
The people love it.
Ever since it opened.
The people love Blumhouse.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Even if you don't agree with me, you're reading it. So thanks. All good.
And until next time, if you saw a ghost, what would you say to that ghost, Pete? Bye!